Hey Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And we're at episode 112. Yeehaw.
One day, I shall come back.
Oh dear, we are in trouble, aren't we?
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
I have the advantage of being slightly ahead of you. Sometimes behind you, but normally ahead of you.
But the trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear. And it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
A meteor storm that the sky above us was dancing with lights. Purple, green, brilliant yellow, yes!
I'm the doctor, by the way. What's your name?
Rose.
Nice to meet you, Rose.
Run for your life.
It's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Just remember who's standing in your way.
Look at the eyebrows. These are attack eyebrows. You can take bottle tops off with these.
Howdy do, Who fans. Welcome to the show. It's really funny because every time we're going through that intro clip, I always look at Adam because I know he's going to start laughing at the 11th Doctor, so the Matt Smith that we perceive as like the drunken, the drunken on the lash 11th Doctor, like screaming, because it fits so perfectly, that idea that he's been like, down in that cavern, underground tomb, whatever it is, place underneath Stonehenge. I've just got visions of him being down there for weeks, and the only thing he's got is alcohol. There's no food or water. It's just like, endless bottles of vodka or whatever it is. And then when they turn up, he's just completely out of his face.
Every man's dream.
Yeah. So, yes, welcome to episode 112. Hope you guys have had a fantastic week and that you've managed to do something Doctor Who related in your lives. There's been quite a few bits and bobs released over the last week for upcoming Christmas special, Series 10 and Class, which we'll get into shortly, which is all interesting stuff. And it's almost like you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Because we've had such a big break now since Doctor Who was last on the TV, when we start seeing trailers and, pictures and behind the scenes and stuff like that, and because we're ploughing through October quite quickly, it's almost like the light is drawing nearer with every day that goes past, because it has been a bloody long break.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if it started to feel like, you're getting withdrawal symptoms yet. I think because we fill it with watching classic Doctor Who, it doesn't seem so bad to me somehow. But I know what you mean. It does feel like ages, like you said, so we've had any Doctor Who. It is nice to see on the horizon, some good stuff coming our way. Yeah.
Because, for you and I, it's been fine, really, because, every week we're going back and watching, Classic Who and the newer stuff each week. Yeah. So it's been okay. I feel the same as you in terms of people sort of feeling the drought, the hiatus and stuff. It's been all right. And you and I have obviously done other stuff. We've been out to conventions and we've always got a steady stream of, tat turning up, at the door. So it's been okay. But I know people that have been, really struggling with it. Really sort of down in the dumps, and oh my god, it feels like forever since Doctor Who's been on. And so I do get that, though. It is a really long time, it feels like, since we had a new episode of Who on the box.
I remember when they said it was going to not be on the show. I remember first of all when the rumours started circulating, and I didn't believe it actually, because I was just thinking, no, I can't have a whole year without Doctor Who. And then it became true, and I was like thinking, oh wow, that's quite shocking, and that takes us back to the dark ages of the hiatus. Oh no!
Yeah,
but actually, it's like you said, it's not been too bad because it does give it a chance to breathe, and hopefully they've got their shizzle together for Series 10 and stuff. So yeah, hopefully the break will do them good, and it also, I think it does build up the anticipation because you always want something when it's not there. So I wouldn't say I was getting bored with Doctor Who by any means. I still looked forward to it every week. But in a way, it's quite nice to have this break because it does build up that anticipation for a new series a bit more than perhaps it normally would, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And it was quite tough, wasn't it, when they decided to do that that break in the series. Was it the Matt Smith? Was it 7?
Oh,
Series 7?
Series 7, yeah.
When they did it in 2 blocks.
I didn't like that.
That was bad, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't like that at all.
That was ridiculous. And so I thought that, that having, almost a year off would be torture, because I remember the break in Series 7 being, quite laborious. It was like, come on. So, but it hasn't been bad for us anyway.
And I think the guys at Big Finish were just sort of like, clapping their hands with glee, thinking, right, guys, time for us to step up this year, fill that gap, which they, to be fair to them, they have been churning out so many releases. They have been doing quite well, I think, at filling in, with Doctor Who, especially as they've got more new series licensed stuff at the moment. So that's been quite good.
Yes. Yes.
In fact, I finally got round to listening to the last story in the old Doctors and slightly new monsters the other day. The McGann and McGann and the Sontaran one. Yeah, I finally got round to listening to that, and that seems to be the one that people weren't that impressed with, and yet I actually quite enjoyed it, because it bangs on about the Time War quite a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But so I won't say too much about it, because I don't want to ruin it for anyone that hasn't listened to it. But yeah, so I found it quite an easy little listen, that one. I quite enjoyed it.
It's not bad, actually, is it? It's not bad. I think the thing with that box set, the classic Doctors, New Monsters, it's I think it's a good introduction into that wave of stories, because it doesn't sort of blow its stack early, and then volume 2's like, wow, is going to be like, well, that's nothing compared to what we had in in volume 1. I just think it's a nice dip in the toe in the water bunch of stories, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. It's a good little release. I wouldn't say it's outstanding, but it's a nice, like you said, it's a nice little starter. I've realised I've got a bit of a backlog, actually. I've still got series, the second box set of Units I haven't even touched yet, because I bought the first one out of curiosity, and it was okay. It was all right. It was enough to make me think I'll get the second one, but I haven't even touched that yet. I've got Philip Hinchcliffe Volume 2 to listen to, which I've heard is not that good, but obviously it's Tom Baker, so I'm sure I'll be enjoyable. And I've got a Cyberman box set that come through ages ago that I've still got to listen to. Big Finish have just released so much stuff this year. It's really hard to keep up with, and some releases I haven't actually bought because just because of the cash, really. Do you know what I mean? There is stuff that I'd love to get. What did they release recently? Oh, they released a nice set of the Doctor Who. All the Doctors did like one story. I forgot. Destiny of the Doctors. That's what I'm trying to remember. They were sort of released individually, and Big Finish have just reissued them in a nice little collected set. I've got them all, but I think it come with an extra making of, which kind of appealed to me, and it was in a nice shiny box, but I managed to resist getting it because I've got half of them anyway. But that looks quite nice.
Yeah. Talking of Big Finish, Spotify have updated their range, and there's loads on there now.
I saw
and I listened to the first Jago and Lightfoot story yesterday, in fact. And that has sort of confirmed to me that we should be listening to that, mate.
Yes, I saw your tweet actually this morning about it. Well, I know you tweeted yesterday, but I only saw it this morning, saying that they'd added that. Is it just the first series they've got on there?
No, they've got all of them.
Oh, really? Oh, amazing.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that is one series I've been wanting to get into for ages. Yeah. But again, they're already on series, 12 now?
Yes.
So I felt like I was a bit too far behind to just start buying the box sets up in bulk. But yeah, that is a set I'd like to get hold of. Yeah,
it's really good. The thing with Spotify is if you do a search for just Doctor Who, but then if you, instead of just going and looking at all sort of various albums and stuff, if you look for the artist Doctor Who, it's got like a little sort of certified tick on it, so I assume that's a BBC account or whoever manages the soundtracks and stuff, it must be. And they've got loads of albums, and it's all Big Finish, everything like that. But then there's another section where they've made playlists. So if you click on the playlists that they've created, that's got all the additional box sets and stuff, and you can find the Jago and Lightfoot in there. But no, they've got more, mate. It's really good story.
One of the other series I've heard is good, but I've not got yet. Is I know the Torchwood releases have been received quite well, but I have just pre-ordered the Torchwood Archive release that's coming out next month, because I thought, I haven't got any of the series yet. I'll go back and get them at some point. But Torchwood Archive sounds quite interesting. I think it's like a celebration of Torchwood, rather, so like a standalone release, I think. So I've pre-ordered that. I'm quite looking forward to hearing it.
Yes. I want to get into the Torch. I haven't listened to any of the Torchwood Big Finish stuff yet, so that's on the list.
Same here. Sure. I've heard they're good. Yeah, it's just, once again, just so much coming out. I can't afford it at the minute. But yeah, we'll get them.
I hear you, man.
At some point.
I hear you. But they're just releasing so much this year. It's tough to keep up unless you've got deep pockets and plenty of time. But get the ironing on, mate. Get that on.
I was actually ironing. I was actually listening to what I was ironing. Absolutely true story. I was talking of money and Big Finish though. I saw a tweet from you. I think it was yesterday or the day before. I forget now. Saying something about I cannot resist a certain thing, and I thought, has he given in and bought it? Has he? And I am, of course, talking about the Chimes of Midnight vinyl.
Oh, mate!
Did you give in and get it?
No, I didn't give in. I was so close as well.
To come to the trailer, because I saw you'd watched the trailer for it or something, and you were just like, I can't resist.
Yeah, do you know what, mate? The finger was hovering over that button for so long, and they released that little trailer as well, where it's got some nice clips, and you see that awesome new cover art, and
it's a beauty.
I was like, oh man, don't do this, because I was already contemplating it, and then they put that out. I was thinking, just don't do this to me now. So I went onto the website, I had it there queued up. I was like, no, I've got to conserve some cash, because we've potentially got Polarity Day coming up if we get tickets, and I want to do a couple of trips into London soon. So I was like, no, I just need to conserve a bit of cash, and I know I'm going to regret it, because once it's gone, it's going to go for silly money after that on eBay or something. It's going to be ridiculous. But I just can't. I just need to be sensible. Got my sensible. It's like Wurzel Gummidge. I've got my sensible head on. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
Do you know, it's surprising actually, considering that the amount of Doctor Who merchandise has reduced this year due to the show not being on air. It's surprising how many things I want to get at the moment, and like you, just sort of thinking I can't afford it. And I've been really peeved off actually, because I love the Robert Harrop stuff. And I've been checking us all the time, and every time I get paid, I'm thinking, right, I'm going to get, I want the Sea Devil, I want the Yeti, I want the TARDIS, I want the Zogon. There's so many on there I want. I want the Malice, So, I looked at it yesterday, and the Sea Devil has now gone, because I think I said to you that it was sort of the last. They said on there it's the last few, and I was thinking, I must get that Sea Devil. He's now gone, and I know, no, he's gone. So I was like, oh well, maybe I'll treat myself to the Malice. He's gone. Oh no, he's gone as well. So I'm just like, it's so frustrating when you keep hovering over the button, thinking I'll get that next month, I'll get that, and then they go.
Yeah.
So don't regret it. Don't be like me in the Malice. Don't regret it.
Well, you know what? I think it's just this time of year as well. Crimbo's coming up, and
yeah.
So it's just need to be frugal.
Frugal, yeah.
I think is the word. Conservative. Yeah. Yes. Anyway, so I think that sort of encapsulates what we've been up to.
Pretty much, yeah. Just one last thing. Have you been reading any of your Peter Davison book yet? Have you had time to start that yet?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, okay.
Not yet.
Only because I picked that up in Smith's, and I really want to get it. And it was only £2 off, which wasn't enough, because I was like, no, come on. It reduced it to £18, which I thought was still just a bit high, and I think it's cheaper online. It's just because it was there in an actual shop that I was tempted to get it. But no, you haven't had time to dip into that yet, no?
Not yet. I'll probably start that next week.
Right.
Probably, he says.
Yeah,
probably next week. But I'm looking forward to it though, very much so, because I think, like we said about his interview in the last month's Doctor Who magazine, I think he's got to that age now. I'm not saying he's old, but he's got to that age where he just, he's a lot less worried about what people think of him and his opinions and so on. He's more happy to lay it out on the line. So yes, looking forward to that.
Good stuff.
Indeed. Yeah. Right. I think the TARDIS needs a landing.
Yeah, we've got some good bits of news to get through. Let's land it.
Right, let's kick off with some big news big news regarding, the main show, which we can't forget about. The reason why we're here, Doctor Who. We have got our first behind the scenes / teaser / trailer / thing about the upcoming Christmas special. Titled The Return of Dr. Mysterio. And yes, so like I say, it's a sort of amalgamation of different things. It's like a little trailer about what we can expect in the story. Plus there's some behind the scenes stuff. So we see some green screeny bits and, behind the cameras and all that stuff. So essentially the Moff has gone down the road of his sort of deep love for superheroes. The old sort of classic costumed superpowered peeps that we've seen for many years now in cinema and stuff like that. He basically wants to go down that road. If anyone's watched any of the superhero programs on I think it's the CW that do it in the US, but over here I believe it's Sky. So things like Arrow and The Flash, and Supergirl. It's got that vibe sort of written all over it. So the character in this, who I'm assuming is Dr. Mysterio, is actually no, that's not him, is it? I think the superhero character, his badge on the front doesn't suggest that that's his name, because the badge on the front is a G.
That's interesting, because I'd just assumed he was Dr. Mysterio as well, but no, you're probably right. Yeah, it's a big G on the front, isn't it?
Yes. So I'm not sure if that's a story twist where the Doctor himself, has created that label, or someone's labelled him as Dr. Mysterio or whatever. But the main character in this, other than the Doctor and Pearl, is this superhero character who looks very, very Batman-y.
Yeah, he's a bit Batman-y. Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of what's that thing? The Green Hornet.
Oh yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. What's the guy's name? Who's the actor that's playing him? Because I don't know him, but apparently he has been in a few things. What's his name? Is it Justin Chatwick?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, comedian actor plays. Oh, it's Grant.
Grant. Yes.
Oh, that's not a very superhero-y name.
No, so that makes me think that the title is aimed more at the Doctor himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, if those of you that have seen in sort of high disgust the Joel Schumacher Batman movies, where the costumes are quite shiny and all that stuff, this has got that written all over it.
Yeah.
So that we don't know anything about the story at this point. Just to point out, we don't know why this character's there. We don't know why the title is what it is, or anything like that. And it does, those of you that have seen the trailer, it does have that very sort of high budget US style, almost sort of mini feature film feel to it. We see like a very big, huge, sprawling American or Canadian city. It looks very sort of New Yorky, Chicago-y. Loads and loads of like big outside shots with the TARDIS flying around, big SWAT teams, guns everywhere. It does look very action-packed.
It does. It looks very festive. Snow, Nardole, duffel coat. It does. It's I don't know. It's intrigued me. I mean, when I first heard the title, Return of Dr. Mysterio, I thought, oh, what an awful title. And then, of course, I realised, I found out, of course, that was how Doctor Who translated when it was shown in Mexico. That was, that's what it was called, which then made me think, oh, okay, yeah, I quite like that. Quite like the fact that Moff's done a little reference there to the show. So I kind of like that. The promo image, yeah, like you said, it looks a bit cheesy. But I suppose we'll let it off because it's Christmas. And the trailer itself, yeah, it looks fun. I haven't really enjoyed a Doctor Who Christmas special for years. I'll be honest with you. I think I haven't really enjoyed one since Matt took over, unfortunately. As much as I love Matt's Doctor, none of them have really hit the mark for me. But it looks okay. Like you said, it looks like it's going to be a lot of action. It looks like it's going to be silly. I'll wait and see. I just don't know how I feel about a superhero in Doctor Who. I just can't help but think of the carcass in The Mind Robber. But it looks a bit cheesy. I just don't know. We'll see. I'm not. Yeah, it looks fun. I just hope it's not silly fun like the Husbands of River song, because that silly robot drove me mad in last year's Christmas special. I thought it was too silly, and I hope we're not going down that same route. So
yeah,
but it looks fun. I hope it's fun.
Yeah. So the synopsis for the story is the episode will see the Doctor joining forces with an investigative journalist played by Charity Wakefield and a superhero to save New York from a deadly alien threat. So it's going to be it'll be an action-packed episode, I think.
Yeah, I've got this vision of it's just going to be, like the Doctor kept saying, like Santa doesn't exist and Robin Hood doesn't exist. I've just got a feeling it's going to be that again, like him with that kid. So I can almost see it already. I'm saying superheroes don't exist, and this superhero keeps saving the day, and the Doctor's sort of chasing after him. And I don't know. I'm already starting to make up my own story, but yeah, I'm just hoping we're not going down that route again.
But it's nice to see something, though.
It is nice to see something, yeah. And was this all because everything seemed to just? We've had nothing for ages. You've had no trailers and stuff. Everything just seemed to come out all on one day. Mm-hmm. And is this because they were at a Comic-Con in the US or something?
New York Comic-Con, yeah.
Yeah, because this leads us into our next bit of news, is that we finally got a Class trailer all on the same day. It was as if the BBC just spewed everything out in like one 4-hour session or whatever. And I'm guessing it's because they were at this Comic-Con, so they were getting exclusive. So I guess we should be grateful we got them, because I think there have been years gone by when they got them and we didn't, and there was uproar. But it did seem to sort of overshadow. It was almost like too much. It would have been much nicer if we'd have got these separately, because I don't know about you, mate, but I think most people were talking about the Class trailer. I think it completely overshadows the Doctor Who making of trailer from what I was seeing. Like people, yep. I think so. Yeah, and obviously our second bit of news is that we finally got this Class trailer. We got two actually. One was very Doctor heavy. It was basically all about the Doctor, and you sort of got glimpses of the characters, and that was it. The second full-length trailer for Class was much better. There was hardly any of the Doctor in it. It actually showed us some of the characters that are going to be in it. Kind of what I expected. I don't know about you. They're kind of how I imagined them. But the style of it looked good, which surprised me, because I haven't been really enthralled by the bits that we've been getting from Class recently. But this trailer finally got me a little bit excited for this, because I thought it looked good. I thought it looked quite high budget, quite stylish. And I thought it was a good trailer myself. I thought, right, okay, I'm on board with this. But it actually did, for me, completely overshadow the Doctor Who trailer, because to my amazement, I was more excited for Class than the Doctor Who Christmas special after watching both trailers on the same day.
Okay.
What about you? Because I know you've not been excited at all for Class, but did this trailer do anything for you now?
No.
Really?
Yep.
Why so? Because I actually thought it was a really good trailer.
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things for me. The first one is it still, for me, it doesn't bring anything new to the table still.
Okay.
For me, it still looks very like we've been here before with sci-fi in general. We've been, I don't know, it just seems like we've been here before, and I would have much preferred it if this wasn't related to Doctor Who.
Right.
Because I feel like it's quite grand. It feels like it's it feels like something that would benefit from having its own universe, if you like.
Okay.
And then when we heard from, what's the guy's Patrick Ness, looking at some of his tweets over the last few days, he's basically said that the amount of cameos is going to be, next to nothing.
Oh, right.
Because he doesn't like, cameos. We're not going to have the Doctor pop up, frequently or anything like that. So that it just makes me think like, he's had these, quite good ideas on the surface, but, has had to be sort of packaged up in the Doctor Who universe, if you like. So I feel like this could have benefited from just being a standalone thing.
Yeah, okay.
But it would have worked better. So there's that, and the whole sort of generic stuff. I just can't seem to. When I've watched the trailer 2 or 3 times, and it just doesn't jump out at me like, wow, this is like a new show that's going to, knock me off my feet and show me something new that I haven't seen before. It just feels like we've been down this road. And secondly, I feel like it's going to get lost a little bit being an online only show.
That does worry me. Yeah. I did think, although I'm sure it is going to be shown on the actual TV
eventually
at a later date. Yeah, but I know what you mean about that. Yeah.
So I feel like it's just going to get gobbled up a little bit and looked over. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know that there's a big shift that's gradually happened over the last few years, and that is going to, transition even further as we, into the future. So this whole thing about sort of terrestrial TV of sort of dying a slow death, and we're going to move over to more online stuff. We're shifting more over to online viewing, versus, the old fashioned way, quote unquote. But I just feel that we're not quite there yet. And I know there have been a couple of other things that have gone online that have been quite successful, but I don't know. I just feel like until it hits on BBC Two a bit later, it's just, put it this way, I hope that the execs at the BBC or BBC Worldwide, whoever, fully understands that and gets it. So when like the viewing figures are not going to be, anywhere near what, you would expect putting it out on the, a prime time slot on TV, then that's fine. But, I don't know, I'm trying hard not to be too, negative ninny about it. I don't want to be the one that's like, oh, Gary, come on. And it's not a case of the glass is half full. It's sort of half empty. It's just, it's not grabbing me. That's all it is. When I watch it, I just feel very flat afterwards. Like,
that's interesting because this finally won me over. This trailer, I think, because it's a lot darker and grittier than I expected. So I'm hoping the series is like that, because that's the thing. The reason I preferred this Class trailer to the Doctor Who Christmas special is because the Class trailer sort of was more how I would like Doctor Who to be, from what I can tell. I mean, obviously I don't know till it airs, but it just seemed much more dark. You got Faddy walking down or Fady, I don't know how you say his name, walking down the classroom with a blood splattered shirt, and it's all very jumpy, and it just, I don't know, it seemed more gritty. And then you got the Doctor Who Christmas special, which of course is a Christmas special, but so it's going to be more light and airy and whatever. But to me, it was just like the Doctor Who Christmas special just looks silly and, fun, which, yes, it probably should be because it's a Christmas special, but it's also how the main series has started to become. And the Class trailer looked a bit more like sort of towards the sort of Torchwood, jumpy, blood, gritty, with a bit of comedy thrown in, and I don't know, it just appealed to me more. And I am surprised because, like you, I haven't really been on board with Class as much as I would have liked to have been up to now. But yeah, this trailer, I thought it was all right. It won me over a bit. I'm actually quite excited about it. I do agree with you about the online thing, because and this is probably just showing my age, I'm not one for watching stuff online. Whereas I know most people around a sort of certain age, 16 to 20 to whatever, will sit and watch YouTube videos all day on their laptops and films on their laptops and Netflix and whatever. But it's just, I'm much more one for sitting down and watching it on the good old box, Yeah. So I agree with you about the online thing, but no, I thought the trailer was good. I'm quite looking forward to it. I mean, the first episode's, well, actually the first 2 episodes, isn't it, are going out on Saturday the 22nd. So what's that? Is that 2 weeks? A week? By the time this podcast go out, that'll be the following
next
Saturday.
Weekend.
Yeah. So we haven't got long, and I'm actually quite looking forward to the first two. I'm definitely going to be watching these when they go out, because I just want to see where we're going with it. I'm a bit more. It's pulled me in a little bit more. Whereas the Christmas special trailer was just exactly what I was expecting. To be honest, it's just Yeah.
Well, I'm sure. We'll definitely do like a mini review.
Oh yes.
On the podcast after that weekend. So a week, 2 weeks today. If you're listening to it on Friday, the 13th. So 2 weeks today, we'll give you guys what our thoughts on it, I guess. But yes, and the other thing as well that really drives me nuts about these any sort of film or TV series which stars secondary school or high school people is that you can tell that the actors playing them are like 4 or 5 years older than what they should be.
Yes, that is true. Yeah, so, I agree with you. Yeah.
Anyway, let's stop there. Let's stop this. Let's look forward to let's look forward to it going out, and we'll see. Again, it's one of those we'll see. Yeah. That's going to do for news.
Oh, no, don't miss out the best piece of news ever.
Oh, hold on. What am I talking about?
Well, not ever, but it's certainly a very, very welcome piece of Series 10 news.
Of course, I'm very sorry. I got ahead of myself there. Right, last bit of news, which is awesome, yes. Fans of Classic Who will welcome this with open arms. One of the writers from Classic Who is coming back to write an episode for Series 10, but we don't know who.
We don't know yet. See, I was just so excited about this bit of news. As soon as I heard this, I was like, my mind was going into overdrive trying to think who it is. So let's have a guessing game. Who do you reckon? I'm just gonna throw this out there. I'm gonna say Rob Shearman.
Yeah, I'd
love it if it was Rob Shearman.
Okay, I've got a guess. Ben Aronovich.
Yes, another great guess. Yeah, see, if it was either of those two, wow, I'm gonna be. You're going to be getting me back on board. I'll be excited if it's one of those two. I'll tell you now.
I've got my money on Ben because he's been very popular of late, the last year or so, with his Rivers of London stories.
Yes, which are really good.
And what was that he wrote on for TV year before last? I can't remember. He wrote, what was it? It got reviewed really well anyway, whatever the last thing he wrote for on TV. But my money's on him because he's just been quite active the last year or so. So yeah, but you think Ron Sherman?
Well, actually, I was hoping Rob Sherman, you've said Ben Aronovich. I'm torn between the two. To be honest, I'd be happy with either of them. I'd love to. Both of them would be great. Let's get them both on board for Series 10 and really make something of it. But yeah, either of those would be fantastic. I think it's more likely to be someone like that because, you think sort of. As I absolutely love Terrance Dicks as a writer, but we know from talking to our mate Mr. Andy that he's still very much on the ball, but not, he's not so. He's not, because I think they wanted him to write one of the Lethbridge Stewart novels, and I don't think he could do it for some reason. So I doubt it's him. As much as I'd love to see Terrance come back. So I think those two are good shouts. Who have we actually got confirmed for Series 10? Because the reason I'm so excited about this is because I don't think I've been very excited up to now, because we've got so far confirmed for Series 10 Frank Cottrell Boyce, who wrote the absolutely atrocious In the Forest of the Night, or The Forest, whatever it's called. Sarah Dollard actually is on board, and I did really enjoy Face the Raven, so I'm hoping for something good from her. Mark Gatiss is...
That's just a 50-50, isn't it? Whether he's just on the ball or not. Yep.
Yeah. And Mike Bartlett.
Mike Bartlett, yep.
Yeah, who's best known for writing Dr. Foster.
Oh, that depressing. Christ.
So nobody there is really getting me excited apart from Sarah Dollard.
She's cool. Yeah, we heard her speak, didn't we?
Her. Yeah, we like her a lot. So out of all those writers, nothing great there. So this is exciting news, I think, that we're getting a classic series writer. I was thinking Andrew Cartmel, but of course he never actually wrote, he kind of did chip in with the writing, but he's not like an official. It wasn't named as a writer on any of the episodes. So, I was thinking maybe it could be him, but perhaps him and Ben. Imagine that, an episode of him and Ben writing it. That'd be amazing.
That'd be cool. Yeah. Well, it's interesting that this kind of sort of tenuous link, because I remember reading in Andrew's book, The Script Doctor, that he was at an event of some sort with Stephen Moffat, and he did say you should bring back this person and this person to write for new Doctor Who, and the Moff just laughed in his face.
Yes, that's right. He didn't take any notice. He was just not. He thought, he sort of just laughed it off in a nervous.
It's like, hey, we might do that.
Yeah,
and then when he's back
off.
turned, like, what a lunatic. But so I think Andrew's been championing this theory for a while to bring back some of the great, story writers from classic. And the more you think about it, the more you think, well, why not? Because especially someone like Ben, who wrote a couple of really good stories for the McCoy era. I'm not sure. Battlefield is Battlefield. I wouldn't say it's one of the greats, but it's still
story-wise was okay,
a good story. And then Remembrance of the Daleks, which I'm going to keep buttoned on until our re-review. But really, really good writer, really good.
Yes, and also Andrew Cartmel did say when we chatted to him in our interview, didn't he, that Ben's had this amazing idea for a story for years now. I think this is what he said. He went up to the Moff to try and tell him. He's like, Ben's got this amazing idea for a story. You've got to do this. And obviously he's keeping his lips sealed, and the Moff didn't really take any interest. But it would be amazing if he's actually sort of woke up and thought, oh, I've just remembered, that Ben Rodovich, he's got a good idea. Let's get him on board. So we'll see.
My money's on him. Yeah. So this is another little tidbit that came out of New York Comic Con. So this was one of the panels that the Moff was on, and he sort of spilled this bit of news quite intentionally, which is fine. But he's still tight-lipped on who it is.
Did you watch any of the panels?
No.
Okay, I just wondered because there's been quite a few recently, and I couldn't get hardly any of them to play when they were going out live. It was a bit of a disaster. Like there was one on through the BBC site, but through Amazon or something, and it just wouldn't play. But the reason I mention it is because there was one funny bit. It was literally I caught the last 30 seconds of a panel. I don't know where it was or what was going on, and they would ask Peter Capaldi what he gains from watching the other Doctors in terms of his performance.
Yeah.
Because obviously he's a Doctor Who fan himself. And Peter said, and I think without thinking, when you just say something that is on your head and then you think, oh, hang on, I probably should have worded that different. He said, well, what I take from it is perhaps, making a story good that's not necessarily good. So getting something, a story that's perhaps a bit below par and turning it around. And I think he was referring to sort of like some of the Peter Davison stories where the Doctor's great, but the story's not. And then and then the Moff was just like, well, cheers for that, Stephen. And he's like, well, no, I'm not saying, he sort of backtracked a bit, but I think the cat was out the bag. It sort of basically said, even if the story's not great, I'd try and make it great, and I thought, well, yeah, you're right. But the Mothball's face was a picture.
Well, do you know what? That doesn't surprise me about Capaldi at all, because he seems like the sort of guy that's just on the ball with everything to do with the show. He doesn't just turn up and do it and go home. It sounds like, or it looks like anyway, because he's such a huge fan, that he's really, he gets it. He understands when he gets the script. He can probably see quite early on if this is going to be a great story or a not so great one. So I can absolutely see what he's saying. And we've said it so many times, haven't we, about previous stories that we've reviewed where, and unfortunately it does seem to apply just to a few Doctors. I'm thinking about Matt Smith and Peter Davison off the top of my head, but they're such great actors and really good as the Doctor, but the story isn't there, so I can see what you're saying. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And also he's not afraid to sort of speak his mind, Peter. He's never rude, but I think probably the Scottishness in him is, he's quite frank and to the point sometimes. And I've heard him, I think it was the Deep Breath premiere where him and Stephen Moffat was, I would say borderline arguing properly about the Mondas Cyberman. Peter was really standing his ground, he wasn't taking. I was thinking, you're talking to your boss there, Peter. He's like, yeah, well, just bring him back, Stephen, and stop messing around or something like that, And I was just thinking, go Capaldi. So I like the fact that he's, not afraid to speak his mind, sort of thing, because he's clear, he's a Doctor Who fan. He's passionate about his Doctor. He wants it to be as best as it can be. So I just love the fact that in interviews he is so honest about it, about where he would like the show to go, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's cool. Good old Capaldi.
Good old Capaldi, yeah.
And that really is going to do for the news.
That is it.
Yeah. Unless you're going to pull something else out.
No, that's
Right.
it. Let's get them pesky Daleks in.
Merch corner. Merch corner. Merch corner.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted.
It's a bit rubbish, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
Adam,
Yes,
are
Gary.
you a fan of the Mr. Men?
I am actually. I do love the Mr. Men.
Well, it's a good job you say that, because there's some quite interesting books coming out. I'm going to say soon-ish, maybe next year. Yeah.
Early next year, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got this quite awesome little mashup coming out where Puffin Books, who I'm not sure if they were the original publisher of the Mr. Men books from very long time ago, before I was born, I believe. I think the Mr. Men, doesn't it go back to the 70s?
Oh, it must do, because it must do, yeah.
Yeah, so
I remember having these when I was a kid, yeah.
Yeah, so the long time kids' favourite, the Mr. Men, have teamed up with BBC to bring out a series of mashup books where the Mr. character is actually each Doctor, and they've been renamed to Doctor, and then their name is just their number. So for the 11th Doctor, for example, the book is called Doctor 11th, Doctor 4th, Doctor 12th, Doctor 1st, and so on and so on. And I think this is fantastic, because this is a great way for sort of the younger kids out there to be sort of educated, as to who the Doctor is and what Doctor Who is from a really early age, before they even think about watching an episode of Doctor Who. It would go straight over their heads,
Yeah.
So I think this is absolutely brilliant. So like you say, next year, there's going to be a range of 3 stories, which is going to go out for like the little kiddies, the very, very small ones. And then later on after that, there's going to be 12 of the proper Mr. Men books that go out, featuring one of each Doctor.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. When I saw this pop up on the merch site yesterday, I just thought, that's brilliant. I love it. I know it's not going to appeal to everyone, but I'm glad you like it as well, because I wondered, we're of similar age. I'm mildly older, but I probably, like you, remember having Mr. Men books when I was a kid. I used to absolutely love them. I used to love the cartoon as well. They used to, with Arthur Lowe doing the voice. And so I thought this was wonderful, actually. Like you said, I think it'll be really great for kids. It'll be really great for big kids like me and you. And it's just really great. What a lovely idea.
Yeah. And it's hard to sort of describe, in audio, but you really have to see, the designs, because part of the charm of the whole Mr. Men thing is how cool the characters look.
Yeah.
And it's got that icon, and they haven't changed it one bit. So if you've ever seen the original Mr. Men books or the cartoons, the design for the Doctor Who characters as the Mr. Men, that they fit into that world just so perfectly. They haven't changed the font, the colours. It's all there, so it looks absolutely brilliant. So I'd be happy to see this go through to sort of a bunch of mini cartoons with each Doctor.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing. Yeah,
I love the designs. They're so simple, and like you said, and they just fit perfectly with the old Mr. Men style. It's just, I'm kind of flabbergasted by them. I just think it's such a simple, brilliant mashup. I love it.
Yeah, good stuff. So that's coming next year at some point.
Yeah, next year.
Yeah,
we'll be getting those. Right, in other merch news, Doctor Who colouring books are surprisingly popular at the moment. They actually sell really well. I know that because on the merch site, somebody who was less than impressed said, "Oh, why another Doctor Who colouring book?" And the author and the guy on the site was like, "Because they are selling surprisingly well," which is good news. And there's a new one coming out, and it's called Doctor Who: The Target colouring book. Now, I haven't got much detail on this. We haven't got a cover or anything because it's not out till April next year. But we're assuming it's going to be some of the original Target covers, which were fantastic, weren't they? They were great.
I believe so. Yeah. I think
so if it is that would be brilliant.
Well, I would say it has to be, because the Target books, there isn't any other illustrations associated with them other than the covers.
Oh, right, yeah.
You know, so it's not they're not illustrated books, so it has to be the covers, right?
I think it's got to be. Yeah, I certainly hope so. Yeah, like you, I can't think what else it would be. So I actually will definitely get this. I probably won't colour it in. I'll just get one and keep it. But that is quite an interesting, again, a bit of a mashup. So, yeah, it's out April next year, I think. Yes.
April next year, so that'd be good. Then I've been going through the other Doctor Who colouring book that they brought out a while ago now. I think it was earlier this year. Or last year. That's really cool. So, but you and I are huge fans of the Target covers, so
I love them.
It's going to be ace to colour through those. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Last up for merch, we have fans that have been collecting the Eaglemoss figurine collection. Now, I've never bought one of these. You know, I don't own any of the Eaglemoss stuff, but you would have seen, if you go into Forbidden Planet or whatever, you would have seen, you know, racks and racks of the Eaglemoss. Is it fortnightly or monthly?
I'm not sure actually. No, it might. I don't know.
Can't remember. Anyway, they do a little figurine collection. I think it's about 8 or 9 centimeters high, and then you get like a magazine with it and so on.
That's it.
But one thing that they have that they do sell alongside the little figurines that they've brought out a little while ago is this what's called this mega statue, and it's a little bit pricey. So the one that they currently sell is the modern looking sort of bronze Dalek figure from the modern Doctor Who. So it's got like the bigger base around the bottom, and it's a slightly different design, but it is taller now. Adam and I had a laugh earlier when we were talking about this before we recorded, that they call it the mega statue. Now, just to put that into a little bit of perspective, when they say mega, we say
standard,
I guess. So, like I said, the normal figurines, I'm sure they're about 10 centimeters high ish.
Yeah,
no bigger than that. So the mega statue is 23 centimeters high.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can imagine, that's probably, just shy of a school ruler, which is 30 centimeters.
Yeah.
So it's not huge. When I first read the headline before seeing the details, I assumed it would be like a 3 foot high, quite a large thing, but it's 23 centimeters. But on the plus side, the detail does look very, very good.
Yeah, they do look nice.
Which is understandable, because at 85 quid,
what
you would expect, the detail to be
it's not 85 quid, is it?
Well, the one that they sell at the moment, the bronze Dalek statue, is $84.99. So, the detail is, regardless of how what you guys think of the price and everything like that, the detail is very, very good. It's hand painted. It's an actual. It looks good. It looks good.
It does look good. I'm just shocked by the price, because I was thinking of getting this. I hadn't really looked into it too much, because I've got a few. None of the pages I've found, but I've got a few Eaglemoss figures. They're very hit and miss, Eaglemoss. Some of them are really good, and some of them are quite average, straight bad. But when they're good, they're good. And the ones, because I don't subscribe to it, I just buy the ones that I like. And when they are good, I really do like the ones that I've got. I never ever buy from Eaglemoss direct, because they are, I'm sorry to say, the worst company I've ever dealt with in terms of ordering. So I never buy from them direct anymore. I had so many problems with them last year, and if you go on their Facebook page and Twitter, they're just a nightmare. They might have sorted themselves out a bit now, so I don't want to sort of put them down too much. But yeah, I tend to get mine from Forbidden Planet, and they're not great, but so I tend to get a lot of my Eaglemoss stuff from Forbidden Planet, and their figures are quite good actually. I must admit, I think the price of these is a bit much, because like you said, maybe if it was the giant Mega Dalek that we were thinking it was, I might spend 85 quid, but yeah, not too sure. Not sure about it. But they do look nice. I agree with you. They do look nice. They do a like one that's very similar to like a movie Dalek, a chase, like the chase Daleks, the blue, silver and gold, which I absolutely love. I don't know if it's in this mega range, I think it was like a subscriber special something, which looks beautiful, but it's quite hard to get hold of.
Yeah. Well, the focus of this news bit of merch story is actually the new Mega Dalek that they've got coming out next year. So it's the same size and stuff as the bronze one that they currently do. It falls under that Mega category, but it's the silver and blue Dalek from Dead Planet.
Dead Planet, yeah.
Which is the first Doctor's Doctor story, isn't it?
Yes.
If memory serves, yeah. So it's so it's one of the original Daleks from Skaro. So which looks okay. I've seen a couple of the close-up photos. It looks pretty good. Initially, I thought, wow, that doesn't look that good. But then I sort of cottoned on a bit, and I thought, well, it's screen accurate. And the Daleks that were on screen, back in the 60s, the paint job wasn't fantastic. So
they were a lot more basic in design, weren't they?
Exactly, yeah. So Eagle Moss have been quite clever with that. They haven't made, a beautifully painted, futuristic looking, silver and blue Dalek. They've done it in the same style as you would see it on the screen.
Yeah.
So it looks pretty good. We'll probably debate the price point at some point. But yes, I can't see me or many other people paying nearly £100 for a 23 centimetre statue, collectible, figurine, whatever you want to call it. But there we go. At least it's the detail is good, and they're not just trying to sell something that's what they deem as not worth the price, I guess.
Yeah, true.
So there we go. Eagle Moss. Eagle Moss. And you can get 10% off as well if you order before the end of the year, so up to the 31st of December. If you use the code EagleMoss10, you'll get, £8.50 off?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that might appease the cheaper side of your brain. I suppose. But anyway, there we go.
Not me, it won't. But anyway, yeah.
That's merch. News and merch done and dusted. Right. Adam, what we're going to do this week for our classic review?
Classic review, Fifth Doctor story, two-parter, The Awakening.
Listen to Colonel Wolsey. Concentrate your thoughts. You must break free from the malice.
Free? Why, I'm his willing servant.
Slave. It only wants you for one thing.
You're mistaken. He's offered me enormous power.
Malice is here for one reason. To destroy. It's the only thing it knows how to do.
Now listen to the doctor. I don't believe you.
Without you, the malice is helpless. Through you, it feeds on the fear and anger generated through the war games. Once it's strong enough, it will destroy you.
No!
George, your village is in turmoil. You're pointing a gun at a man who is a friend. That's the true influence of the malice. Can't you feel the hate and rage inside your head? Think, man! Did you have such feelings before you activated that thing?
I don't.
No! God, the music's going mad in that scene, isn't it?
Oh, dear. Yes, right.
How's the doozy then?
So, The Awakening, which was a cheeky little two-parter, which we rarely see in Classic Who, that came out in January 1984. It was written by Eric Pringle, directed by Michael Morris, and was overseen by John Nathan Turner. And the music that you so kindly commented on was the famous Peter Howell.
Yes.
Indeed. So, The Awakening sees the Doctor with Tegan and Turlough land in the English countryside in 1984, but it has been amalgamated with amalgamated with 1643. There is a sort of supernatural, horrible, demony, devil-type character that has resided in the village of Little Hodcombe, and via the power of psychic energy is controlling the villagers as they engage in a recreation of a huge battle that took place many centuries before. So they're having loads of fun with these war games, but little do they know that the Malice is controlling sort of the head honcho, Sir George Hutchinson, and they're essentially just going to destroy everything, which they don't know about. They think it's just fun and games. But a couple of villagers do actually know what's going on. They're not into the story, but they get sort of dragged in anyway. And then it's up to the Doctor and those guys to sort of sort the Malice out, return everybody to sanity, and at the same time find Tegan's granddad.
Yes, Andrew Verney.
Andrew Verney, yeah.
I just want to see my granddad.
So yeah, that is the Malice. And like I said, it's a little two-parter that we rarely see. And I'm not sure how I feel about this one being a two-parter, because we rarely say this, but I think this could have been a four-parter.
Certainly, yeah. Certainly a 3 or 4. Yeah, definitely.
At least a 3, because I think that if they would have gone a bit more into the history side of things, and also delved a bit more into Tegan's grandfather, we could have had a bit more of a fleshed out story. So what do you think to this? What do you think to this as a story squeezed into a couple of parts?
I actually really like this one. I really like The Awakening, but there are so many things that are unclear and not really explained that well that it definitely needed that third part, if not fourth, because part 1 I think is brilliant. It's classic Doctor Who. It's full of questions and mystery, and you know, and the performances are good and everything. But we get to episode 2 after what I think is quite a good cliffhanger. Great zoom in on the Doctor just going insane, and a woman, she's clearly been told to scream his name for as long as possible to sync in with the closing music as well. Dog, she just keeps going forever. But we get to part 2, and it's just such a rushed, tied up conclusion, and it's really unclear, I think, what's actually going on sometimes in terms of why the Malice is there, how it's controlling people, why is it doing what it's doing. And it's a shame, because it's like you said, given an extra episode, we could have really filled in those blanks.
Yep.
And I think it would have been a really good story, this one. I still really enjoy it though. I still really liked it at the end, but it does feel so rushed, and I know that they had to cut so many scenes to get it into the 25 minutes bracket. So there's lots of on the DVD. There's lots of scenes that they've cut out and trimmed and all that sort of thing. So they could have easily made this a 3-parter, which I think it should have been really 3 or 4. Yeah. And the cast are good enough that it would have worked. You know, I think that the supporting cast are good enough that it would have easily worked as a longer story.
Yeah,
because we're just sort of getting into it, and it just all wraps up. Yeah, but it's good though. I like it. I like this one.
It is a fairly good story, and although we're saying that, you know, it could have benefited from 3 or 4 parts, sometimes it is nice just to have a short classic that you can pop on, you know, and it's not going to take you half a day, you know, to watch through it. That's if you want to watch it all in one go, that is. So yes, it's weird. It's like, you know, it's like the lesser of 2 evils, if you like. You know, do you sort of have that sort of convenience factor where it's nice just to be able to spend 50 minutes watching a classic Who story? But then on the other hand, it's like, well, you know, we need a bit more fleshing out, so we'd like another part, please. You know, send it back. You know, come back to us when you've sorted it out. But so, but I like it. It's a simple watch. Because the very first episode, like you say, it has got that nice mystery factor, you know, that really cool, you know, typical classic Who, where, you know, they've arrived with Tegan sort of, you know, doing a nut as usual because she thinks they've arrived in the wrong time and all the rest of it. And then when they actually go out, you know, and they discover the church, and, you know, we see what's going on with the characters, you do think, well, what's going on? You know,
there's like the crack in the wall, these strange symbols in the church, you know, these weird guys on horses in like this battle gear from the 1600s or whatever. There's lots going on in this. Like you said, just really, I think episode 1 really pulls you in, and you're thinking, wow, what's going on? This is a bit crazy. And there's something about Doctor Who landing in a little quaint English village that I just absolutely love. It's just so much of the classic series. It makes you think like the android invasion and the demons and things like that. There's something about the Doctor arriving in a little village that I just love. I love seeing them on real locations as well. Yeah. So I think it brings it closer to home as well, because you can imagine that being just sort of up the road, happening, going on around the corner from your house or whatever. So yeah.
No, I read you. It's episode 1 definitely has that that really good story feel to it.
I thought it was strong.
Yeah, where it's been written in a way that you can't wait for episode 2. When the cliffhangers at the episode 1 with Polly screaming her head off at the Doctor, because he's put his hands strangely in the in the hole in the wall, getting his head blown off by all the smoke. When that's finished, you're like, oh man, what's going to happen to the Doctor now? Is he going to get swallowed up? It's quite a dramatic
zoom, isn't it? Yeah.
Is he going to get swallowed up and spat out, or is he? So that's good. But then, like you say, episode 2 does go a little bit sort of wayward, because the feeling that I got is that it tries to wrap everything up relatively quickly, because the first sort of 10 minutes of episode 2 are pretty good as well. It sort of follows on that same vibe from the first one, but then after that they've only got 15 minutes to wrap everything up. So they have to sort of answer the question about, does Tegan's grandfather has any, does he have any significance to what's going on?
None whatsoever. Well, actually he does, doesn't he?
But a little bit, yeah. Do we find out what happens to the villagers after the Malice has destroyed itself and all that? We don't really know. Do we find out what happens to Will?
Yeah, do they rebuild the church?
Exactly. Yeah,
you can tell they were short of time though, because the Doctor's last line actually he hasn't even finished saying it before the end credits start rolling. Yeah, he's like something about I like tea or something, isn't there? It's like, well, I like tea for what it's worth. It's like it doesn't even get time to finish his last line before they're like, quick, get the credits rolling. We've got to wrap this thing up.
Yeah, and it would have been nice as well, because the character Will, he's been sort of transferred over into their time period, hasn't he? That little sort of country bumpkin sort of weird character. And at the end, it would have been nice to actually see the TARDIS land in 1643, drop him off. But they just sort of close it out by like, the Doctor's like, that's right, we'll drop him off. And we just assume that the Doctor's delivered him back to his time period. Okay. So it does wrap up really quickly in that last 15 minutes. But then again, it's like I said, it's nice to be able to just watch some classic Who without it eating up, your entire, half a day, like the War Games.
Which does get mentioned a lot, doesn't it? Every time they say the War Games, I think of the War Games.
Yes.
Patrick Troughton's story. Yeah. But I agree with you about that, because that's one of the reasons I do like this. So this one and Black Orchid are two stories that I've just always really enjoyed just putting on. And like you said, they're just two little two-parters that are quick, easy to watch. This one just has a lot more substance to it, I think, whereas Black Orchid, I know a lot of people don't like it, a lot of people do. I'm one of those that does. It's not a nice little episode that's very different, just shows the crew relaxing a bit, whereas I think this one it's got a lot more to it. That's the thing, it could have justified another episode, whereas Black Orchid I think is just perfect as a two-parter. If you want to call it filler, but I think it's a nice filler, whereas this one it could have easily been extended and worked, I think. But again, I do like it for that. I think when we put it on the list, I remember thinking, oh, that's good, nice little two-parter for next week, can get that one watch quickly and stuff. So yeah, in terms of that, it is good.
Yes. And we also get to see some very slight variations to the Doctor's outfit in this one, don't we? That we've seen.
I never realised this until I saw it on Wikipedia. I mean, I noticed the jumper's different. I noticed that, but I never noticed the other subtle differences before. Maybe because I'm colourblind. I don't know, because they are pretty subtle, aren't they?
They are.
Apart from the jump.
I only noticed the jumper, to be honest with you.
Oh, right.
Because it's like it's quite different, isn't it? It's got quite a big sort of thick red, and it's the red, isn't it, with the black stripe through it now.
That's it. But apparently his coat's a slightly different shade or something, and he's got green inside the shirt instead of red. And I don't know, there's a couple of very tiny little differences apparently,
yes,
which I'd never noticed before. Yeah.
Yes. And also, I think his trousers are slightly different as well. Not in terms of how they look, but I'm pretty sure that in the episodes before this one, they had a bit more of a sort of slim fit to them, really. Whereas this one, there's a couple of scenes where the Doctor's running up one of the country paths and stuff, and they look quite baggy. You know, they look, so I'm not sure if that's because he's put on a couple of pounds at this point, or I'm not sure, but
probably. Maybe they're just getting him ready for Colin to step into, just edging him out an inch every story.
Yeah.
I always think they look like pajama bottoms, actually. I mean, I love the Fifth Doctor's outfit because it's bizarre.
I love it. Yeah.
But it is, they do look like pajama bottoms. Yeah.
I love the Fifth Doctor's outfit, and
celery.
It is cool. I do like it. It's a really good. And when he sort of from out of his pocket pulls out sort of the very thin folded hat.
Oh, the hat.
It's very cool. I really like the Fifth Doctor's outfit. But yes, right. So let's talk about some of the direction and stuff. I actually quite like the direction in this because it's one of those episodes where you don't think about it. And I think that's a sign of good direction because, when we've picked up on this in the past where it might be too flat or it might be too sort of mundane and it's just like, come on, we need a bit more energy going on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I didn't really notice anything apart from as we get sort of in the middle of episode 2, I just didn't notice it. And I think that's a good sign because I didn't afterwards think, well, that was, fairly sort of lackluster. And at the same time, I didn't think, wow, that sort of blew me away. It was just enjoyable. I focused more on the story and the characters, and the direction and the editing and stuff just sort of moved nicely along.
Yeah, no, the director, Michael Owen Morris, was the director. I think he was really quite new when he started to this. So looking at the extras yesterday, which is quite nice because being two-part, I had a chance to watch the DVD extras, which are great, by the way. He's talking on it, and I think this is quite early on in his career. And I think he does a fantastic job. And he talks about how he wanted to make it more exciting than perhaps some of it was on the page, like the beginning with the horses. I think that was just supposed to start with her wandering around the stables and then the horses sort of appear in front of her. And he thought, no, I'll start it with this great running shot. That'll be the first thing you see. And that'll instantly get you into the story and make it more dramatic. And I thought, it's good. I like the way he's thinking because it's, like you said, that I think some directors would have just gone with the page and, so-and-so's walking around the stables. She sees some horses and he's clearly thought, how can I make that a bit more exciting?
Yeah.
I thought the direction was very good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool.
Considering what he's got to work with. I mean, it's not the easiest story to understand either, really. There's quite a lot going on for a two-parter.
Yep.
So, I mean, for him to sort of make that work, I say as well as it does, I still think there's quite a lot that, needed more work. But for him to make that work, I think he does a really good job, yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And let's talk about a couple of story aspects then. So I quite liked the idea of an entire village being sort of consumed by this idea that they have to participate in these war games.
Yes, I like that as well.
That was cool because initially I thought, well, this has got to be something quite sinister because you wouldn't just have one guy. Because I think what was his job in the village? I think he was a magistrate, wasn't he?
Is this George?
Yeah.
Or the other guy?
Will. George. Yeah, George Hutchinson. He was he's like a magistrate, wasn't he? He had like quite a quite well-to-do sort of job and stuff. And I thought it would be unlikely that just a single person in the village would be able to coax everybody into doing this. And as the sort of psychic energy, as the Doctor described, it builds up throughout the story. That explains, his hold over everybody and all that stuff. So I thought that, this must be something sinister to get everybody, almost against their will, to participate in all this. And then when we obviously find out it's the malice and, you know, all that stuff. I thought, that explains it. So I quite like that concept because I thought it was a joke to begin with. So when we see, it's Polly, isn't it? The character name, the woman.
Yeah, Polly, yeah.
Polly, yeah. So at the beginning when she's strolling around the courtyard and then they come in on horseback and, you know, they pretend to like, you know, joust and, you know, spear her with whatever they're carrying. I just assumed that was a little joke, but it actually turns out to be quite dark, doesn't it? Because she obviously doesn't want to take part in all this. She thinks it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But then the other people are really taking it seriously, and you think, wow, this is quite a dark storyline, because at one point they're almost ready to kill her.
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
well, they lock her up, don't they?
They lock her up at first, and then, and then I think it's Tegan later on, or no, it's the Doctor where Sir George basically says to the guy, his right hand man, sort of hands him his pistol and says, you know, I want him eliminated.
Yeah.
You know, and you think, wow, they are really taking this very seriously. So I love that concept, and it's good that we sort of land in the middle of it as well. Because although it might be viewed as like an unanswerable question, like, well, you know, how did this all kick off in the first place? You know, it is explained a little bit with Sir George having like this sort of medium-esque mind, and the Malice being able to sort of channel that psychic energy into him. So he's like the front man for it all. But it's still nice that we sort of land when it's all sort of building up, if you like.
Yeah.
Which is what you said earlier, that sort of classic Who, we've landed in the middle of a mystery, what's going on?
It's a very dark undertone to it, isn't there? Which is, it's in fact, it's a lot darker than I remembered in terms of the sort of the tone. I like that. But the interesting thing is they're under the control of the Malice, so they're not aliens invading Earth like we've seen a million times. They're actually human beings that are just kind of, they've just got it wrapped up in these events, and it's escalated to a point where they're just sort of acting totally, like you said, you know, at one time he was a mayor or whatever, and now he's like doing all this, and they've, you know, I think that's more interesting because the humans have been sort of manipulated into doing all the dirty work for the Malice. Yeah. I thought so. Yeah, it's good. I like the undertone of the episode.
Yeah, it was quite. Yeah, I thought the same because I've seen this one a few times now because it's an easy watch.
Yeah, it is an easy watch. Yeah.
I don't mean in terms of there's, like we've said, there's a lot going on, but it's an easy watch to just sit down and, you know, and watch through it. And I had forgotten the sort of darker side of it because it also deals with you know, it's almost sort of borderline sort of ghost story, not a ghost story, but almost a supernatural type of story, because the Malice character, when we've seen like the plaques on the wall in the church and so on, he's sort of been viewed as over the centuries as like the devil, you know, this like devil demon character. And then when we see him bringing back almost ghosts, if you like, or projections from another time, you know, where we see those three soldiers that appear in the church, you know, they're sort of doused in this white light and they look quite creepy. And then we have the whole concept of Sir George, his character almost being possessed almost. Yeah, you know, and controlled. So it is quite a creepy, sort of darker story, isn't it, for Who?
I think so. Yeah, certainly a lot more than I remembered. I have watched it a few times, but this is the first time I've watched it. I think since I bought it, which would have been a couple of years ago. So yeah, no, I like all that, and I love the Malice. I love the way it's actually realised on screen, breaking through the wall. I think it's just a really, that's what sticks in my mind about the story. You know, from when I watched it when it first aired, is that's, you know, before it was released on DVD and I can enjoy it all over again. That's the bit I remember, was this devil face in the wall, which at the time I just thought was fantastic. I was like, God, what a great idea, you know, and it's so surreal as well. How can that thing be in the church and what's going on, you know? I think it works well. And I do remember thinking about the Malice on the TARDIS wall as well, how that as a kid just like creeped the hell out of me. Because it looks really creepy, doesn't it? Just the way it's like turning its head, and it's something about it. Even though you know it's just a rubbery hand puppet, whatever. It's something about it. I suppose it's the design of the face or whatever works brilliantly because it's so creepy. And yeah, like you said, it's supposed to be like a devil incarnate sort of thing, isn't it? So yeah, but it is good. I think it stands up fairly well. I mean, you know, considering we are talking about a show that's 30 years old now? No, probably more. What was it, 80 something?
84.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, it's just somebody pushing the big head from behind through the wall, but I still think it looks really iconic, if you like.
Yeah, well, it is just over 30 years old.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it may be a bit ahead of its time almost.
And do you think Stephen Moffat might have watched this by any chance? Because that crack in the wall and things coming through it from other timelines sounds awfully familiar and looks very familiar as well.
Yeah, for our listeners, if you've not seen this story before, and you know, hopefully after listening to this, you know, you'll go and check it out. When you see the scenes before they've torn down that bit of the wall and we see the malice behind the wall, that crack in the wall, it does look awfully similar to a certain Matt Smith story arc,
doesn't it? Just
wow. It's and for those guys that have not seen this, if you go on to watch it after this, or people that have just recently seen it, isn't it like a smack in the face, blatantly obvious that that's where the Moff got the idea from?
Yeah, because things are coming through from different times and stuff, and all that, and it's like, oh right, and the Doctor's reaching through it, and
even the shape of the crack,
even the shape,
like the shape, and you know, it's almost identical.
Yeah.
So you would think, it's one of those sort of obvious things that just hit you in the face and you're like, what? Wow. So, you know, he didn't come up with that idea all on his lonesome.
And I would love to see the Malice come back in the new series.
Yeah.
I think it'd be amazing if they did it now. Yeah.
It'd be cool. Right. And the other sort of, so in terms of story, we've sort of gone through, it's kind of, you know, although there's a lot of mini questions being darted around, it's a fairly simplistic thing. There's the war games going on, but it turns out, you know, that this is being contrived by, you know, the Malice through psychic energy and so on. One of the additional story parts that I wish they would have fleshed out a bit more is the importance of Tegan's grandfather. Because when they first turned up, that's the whole reason for their visit to Earth, isn't it? Because they've landed at this time period. They're in this village. Tegan wants to see her granddad.
Yes.
That's the thing. But when they get into the flow of the story, and they get told, or Tegan gets told that by who's the colonel guy, Glyn, you know, the sort of the colonel guy, he sort of comes good in the end.
Wosley,
yeah, I think so. He basically tells Tegan, you know, don't worry about your grandfather, he's perfectly safe. So he's been imprisoned, hasn't he, for some reason, because Turlough gets thrown in with him when Turlough
he's
gets
locked
captured
in a shed.
But we don't know why. We have
no, that's true. No, we don't.
We have no clue as to why Tegan's granddad has been imprisoned and is not participating with all the other villagers in the war games. He's just there and he's locked up, because the whole thing with Tegan, like shouting, you know, where's my grandfather, and you know, and all this stuff, that doesn't get explained. And then when Turlough and Tegan's grandfather escape from the little shed that they're locked in, he still doesn't really reveal himself to be of any importance to the situation. You know, when we found out that initially that, you know, don't worry, he's safe, in my head I thought, well, he's going to be like a key character. He's got like some sort of you know, loads of sort of knowledge, because the only thing we know about him, he's like the local historian, isn't he, of the village. So we know that, you know, he's got knowledge of what happened, you know, in these big battles that took place, you know, hundreds of years ago. But I assumed that he had like additional knowledge and additional, you know, because we say that knowledge is power, that he had additional knowledge about the Malice and about this character and about the dangers of it and all that stuff. And so in order to keep him away and not spoil the party, so to speak, That's why he's been locked up. But we don't get that sort of explained to us, do we?
No, it's a wasted opportunity, that as well, because it almost makes his character redundant. Like, there doesn't really need to be, it doesn't even need to be in it, really. You know, apart from the fact that Tegan's saying, "Where's my uncle?" You know, it doesn't play any sort of important part in it. When perhaps he should. Yeah, like you said, it seems strange that they've brought him in that far, but don't utilise the character in any way, really.
Yeah, and it's strange because the story goes from one extreme to the other. So we have that very loosely, carried through the story. But then on the other hand, the Doctor is, really explicit about certain things. So the little sort of squidgy stress ball thing, which turns out to be a lump of metal, like liquid metal. The Doctor goes into great detail that it's tin clavic, and it's like a sort of precious metal that's mined by the pteroleptils on the planet Raga.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and
you can thank Eric Sayward for that, I think.
Yeah, of course, yeah, and it's used for people of the people. It's used exclusively by the Hakol. There's people the Hakol. So we have one extreme where we don't know what the flip's going on. With quite an important character supposedly in the story, but then on the other hand, we have like quite a bit of detail thrust at us about a little bit of metal.
Yeah, that's true.
So it does sort of fluctuate from one extreme to the other. But I guess that's we have that in Who quite frequently, don't we? Where, especially in classic Who, where some things go unanswered and we just have to go with it and stuff like that. And then on the other hand, we have like buckets of detail about the tiniest little thing.
I'm just wondering if Grandad had any scenes cut. I don't remember seeing anything when I watched the outtakes of it. I could be wrong. There might have been a bit more of him and Turlough in the prison. I can't remember, but I don't think so. But it does feel like he needed to be fleshed out a bit more, to make him, worthy of being in the episode, if you like. Because it did make me laugh. Even in the scene at the end when she finally gets to meet him, she's like, Mr. Vernon, Granddaddy, whatever, in the TARDIS. And he gets his like one of his very few lines, and the camera's sort of moving off him before he's even finished speaking. I don't know if you've noticed. He's like, "Yes, we're something or other in the village," and the camera's just like, not interested. It was offered. I think the part was offered to somebody who's Vestor in the Twin Dilemma. That actor. I can't forget his name now.
Oh crikey! Yes, I know who you mean. I can't remember the actor's name, but yeah.
It was. I think it was offered to him, and he turned it down. I'm not surprised. And he gets about 3 lines. Maurice Denham, is it? Maurice Denham? I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah,
could be. Yep.
Yeah. So he could have done with a bit more. He's probably a bit disappointed when he got the script and saw all his lines crossed out because they hadn't got time to film them.
Yeah. So yes, lots of detail on little things. But in terms of also just sticking with Tegan for a second.
Yeah. Go on, do your impression. I've been waiting for it the whole episode.
She gets captured, doesn't she? And she gets forced to change clothes into like the old style thing because she's going to be Queen of the May. Now, am I right in thinking that whoever this woman is who becomes Queen of the May, she gets burnt at the stake like a witch?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that right?
That's it.
Yes, I thought so. See, that's something else that we didn't really get that much detail on. All we know is she's going to be, she's going to be sacrificed.
Yeah.
Is what I thought. But then it's not until we see the villagers out on the green, with the big bonfire sort of stuff going on. So we didn't really see with that, other than Tegan moaning a little bit about it. We didn't really see any more
it's
story.
Funny when she's in that costume. Although it's quite funny because the scene leading up to it again is quite dark. There's a bit where the guy says to her, "Get changed or I'll do it for you." And I was like, oh God.
Here we go.
a bit harsh.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't mess with Tegan, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But when she does do her, she sort of spins round in her new clothes. It is funny because it's Tegan and she looks so
looks ridiculous, doesn't she?
Yeah, and she's just like, what am I gonna do now? You're gonna get burnt on a stake. But I do like the burning on stake because that's very sort of classic horror. That's so many horror films where people are sacrificed and burnt and all that, and it's
it's got like sort of shades of like the Wicker Man, that old sort of
Wicker Man,
sort of pagan cult kind of thing going on.
That's it.
Yeah, which is it's quite cool. But I just wish they would have brought that to a bit more of a climax. So maybe have Tegan actually be tied up, ready to be burned, but then she sort of gets saved and.
See, that would have been a good cliffhanger if they'd have done like another part. Because that sort of would build up to the end of part 2, wouldn't it?
Yes.
So that would have been a great cliffhanger, wouldn't it? It's Tegan tied to the stake, about to be burnt.
Yeah, it would have been good.
Yeah.
And then, right, let's talk about some characters. First of all, let's talk about this character then, the Malice. So the design, even though it looks quite basic, which you would expect from classic Who and from the time, actually looks really good. I
loved it.
Really like the big, because we see him in sort of two incarnations, don't we? We see like the huge stone face behind the crack in the wall.
Yeah.
And those sort of bright green glowing eyes, they look really good. I mean, you can see it's like a painted black circle for the pupil because it zooms in at one point.
Oh, that's
I think
right.
it's a cliffhanger and stuff, but it's really good. Like, it's quite a huge prop, isn't it?
It looks massive. Yeah.
It's huge. And, to have it sort of move in the way it does. I mean, it's a little bit sort of traveling funfair House of Horrors kind of thing, where it's got like little smoke machines, around him and, smoke's bellowing out. But it does look really good. I
loved it.
Yeah. The way it moves as well. Pretty impressive.
And the church set's good, isn't it? Like that whole thing that, the whole inside of the church, I think, looks really grand. Like you said, because the big old face is big. So, but the set itself as well that it comes through, I think, it all looks very good actually. Yeah, the dry ice is a little bit of the time, I suppose, but I don't care about that. I thought it looked great. Yeah, when he's bashing down the wall, and I love it when Will comes crashing through it as well from wherever he's supposed to have come from. Yeah, no, I think it's really. I think they've really tried hard on this.
It's good
in terms of the budget and stuff. Yeah.
And then we see the other version of Malice where he's inside the TARDIS, isn't he? Inside the TARDIS.
Oh yeah,
he's up on the wall, isn't he? He's up on the wall, and that's really creepy because the bottom half of him almost looks like a lion or a cat, and he's sort of up on the wall, but his head is twisted round, so it's facing the other way.
It's horrific.
It's horrible. But it looks
and I like
great,
the fact we get, if you watch Tegan in that scene, she's doing her best horrified acting for a good old minute before we actually see what she's looking at. Because I was thinking, at first, I thought she didn't realise she was on camera. Because I was like, what's she looking at? She seems to be like doing something different to everybody else in that scene. She's like just sort of staring up at the wall. And then we finally get to see what she's looking at. And when we do, it looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It just, again, it's more the design. I mean, I'm sure there are some people out there, if like, say, one of my friends is to walk in who's not necessarily a Doctor Who fan and saw that on the screen, he'd probably go, what the blimmin' X that meant to be? But I think it looks fantastic. Yeah, and it's quite gross when that green slime pours out of its mouth and stuff.
Oh, crikey, yeah, it's horrible.
Bit grim, isn't it? Yeah.
It is a bit horror movie.
It is a bit, yeah.
Like old school pre-CGI horror movie stuff.
Yeah. See, I'd much rather have the real thing, than CG, because that's actually on the TARDIS wall. Even if it looks like a bit rubbery or whatever, that's actually there. That's what I like about it. Whereas nowadays, it probably would have been a CG. Yeah. It wouldn't have the same effect, would it? Because you'd just be sitting there thinking, that's a good CG monster. It just wouldn't have the same effect.
Yeah. And the only bit of sort of visual effects really that we see in this whole story is the little sort of blue blinking squares that appear when we see the psychic projections. They look a bit...
Yeah, they don't look so good, but...
It's just an overlay, isn't it, of some lights, but...
Thankfully, we don't get too much of it. The sound effects kind of make it work, because it's like a really weird tinkling sound.
Yeah.
But they don't look particularly good. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So there's very little in the way of computer
Special
effects, isn't there? Yeah, which is good. So the Malice, I thought it was a really good character. Even and what I thought made it even scarier was the fact that it doesn't talk.
Yeah,
It's just a face or a being that's there, and it's the only way of communicating is via psychic. So I thought that was a bit more creepy because that could have really tipped it over into being a terrible episode, having this really big, evil, cheesy horror movie voice booming out of it. So I thought that was good.
Do you know what? I hadn't thought of that, but that's a very good point actually. Yeah, if in episode 2 it'd have been like Doctor blah blah blah, it would have been just like every other.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. I hadn't thought of that. I agree with you.
I'm thinking of the later end of Paradise Towers.
Feed me.
Yes, I'm thinking of that sort of vibe. So they could have gone down that road. So Malice was very, very good.
And the name's good as well. Malice. Love that because it just absolutely suits that thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about what about Will, the little sort of
Stig of the Dump,
the guy that's terrified of everything.
Yeah, you must remember Stig of the Dump.
Stig of the Dump, the Crowman from Wurzel Gummidge. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. Because that's what he was best known for. I don't know if it was before or after this. Actually,
it was after.
Was it after?
Oh no, hold on. It was before. Sorry, before.
Is it? Because I think he's a real likable little character, and we do, we don't get to see an awful lot of him, less than I remembered actually. He's not in it as much as I thought, but he is good. I think it's very easy to go over the top when you're doing that kind of stupid acting. By that I mean, when you're told to act like a bit of a ear, what be going on here then? Do you know what I mean? That's how he's been told to act that part. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really easy to do that and come across as just stupid and laughable. And I think he gets it. He sort of pitches it about right. I think he's good in that role. So I like Will. Apparently there was mild consideration by John F. Turner to keep him on as a companion at the end. Apparently he really liked the performance from Keith Jane and thought, I wonder if he could work as a companion. I don't think it went very far, but he definitely considered it. But then he just figured that every episode it'd just be the Doctor explaining to Will what's going on. So he thought, no, we can't do that. But no, I like him. I think he's good. I wish he's in it a little bit more actually.
He's quite a cool little character.
Yeah.
He doesn't really contribute much. He sort of does a lot of running away, being scared, but he does provide the Doctor with a lot of information, I guess, about what was happening in his time period, which is quite useful to the Doctor, I guess. But
there is a character. I'm just going to mention this while I'm thinking of it because I'll probably forget. There is one character, considering I've watched this a few times, so I've never quite understood what he's doing. Who's the guy with the one eye, like the guy in the shroud that's running around, like half-face man? What's he about? I've never quite understood. Is he just someone that's come through the crack, or is he a projection, or because he's quite creepy, but he kind of just disappears halfway through episode 2, I think.
Yeah, he's the guy that steals Tegan's handbag, isn't he?
Yeah, but what's the point? Where's he come from? What's the point of him?
I assumed, rightly or wrongly, that he was from Will's time period.
Oh, okay.
He was a character that's been dragged through the crack.
Well, I assumed that, but I just wondered what he doesn't seem to play any part because he's quite a good creepy. Like you get a shot of him creeping up beyond a gravestone, watching events. You think, oh, what's this guy up to? But he doesn't do anything in the end. I just wondered again. It seems almost like an idea that's just fizzled out, which is a bit of a shame because, again, in the first episode, it really adds to the creepiness that you've got this thing in the shadows with half a face, running away and stuff. So it's kind of a shame that they don't do more with him or even explain him, I don't think.
Yeah, he doesn't really. Well, that's it. That's all we see of him. Like the first sort of 10 minutes of episode 1, we see him running out the church, don't we? When they go over to investigate, and then he pops up again and he runs away because it's weird because the Doctor chases him And then when he looks up the path, he's like 300 meters up the path. The Doctor can't explain how he's got that far. So you initially think, well, is he a ghost? Is he some sort of, how did he run that far that quickly? Like 1 second, he's like, all the way down the end of the road.
Yeah.
But then you just assume that, he's either a psychic projection, or he's, a character that's been dragged through from a different time period.
I'm guessing he's a psychic projection. I'll tell you what I love. We often talk about how classic era go to great lengths for minor detail and, really put the effort in back then. That scene you're talking about is a perfect example. They've painted, they've got a piece of glass because they're in a location that's supposed to be the same location as the church, but it's actually 10 miles up the road. For that scene where he's running up that little alleyway, they've gone and got a great big piece of glass, got an artist to paint a miniature church and positioned it in front of the camera to make it look like the church is at the end of that track. Just because when Peter Davison runs, he has to be careful not to cross over, because he would ruin the illusion of the perspective of the tiny church they painted. Right. And I just sort of thought, would anyone have even noticed if the church wasn't there at the end of the track? Probably not. But I love the fact that you so want it to be the same location. You thought we better paint a little church in there, There's a great, I just love that attention to detail with Classic Who.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. Yeah. And right, let's talk about some of the characters in the village then. So we have Wolsey and Willow. So we have Willow, who's like Sir George's right-hand man. He's the guy that's taking it just as seriously as George. And he's the one that wants to dish out a few
slaps.
A few slaps, a sort of executions, if you like. And I thought his character was quite good. He was a bit no, actually no. I was going to say he hams it up a little bit, but he doesn't really. He's quite cool. I like the fact that he's so into it. Just the only thing I don't like about him is he does seem a bit of a brown nose to George. He sucks up to everything, and he's like, you get the feeling that he sort of, cleans his shoes for him and brings him his dinner and all that stuff. So, but he was not a bad character.
No, he's all right. I think maybe just every now and again he goes a fraction OTT, but he's pretty decent, I think. Yeah. You almost get the feeling he wants to be in charge, really. Yeah. Sort of waiting for George to move off so he can step in. Yeah.
And then Wolsey is the sort of older gentleman that he's sort of resisting it, isn't he, all the way through.
His heart's not in it.
Yeah, so you can see that he's sort of happy to participate as long as it's just a game. But then when people start getting kidnapped and held against their will, he's sort of not happy about it. And but then he has a struggle, doesn't he? He sort of, as the story goes through, he does get swept away with it, and that sort of psychic energy, as he gets stronger, he does almost shoot the Doctor, doesn't he, at one point?
Yeah. I quite like him though, because it does show that he's not, like the others are just, it's tapped into their bit of personality where they're happy to go along with it, whereas he's got a bit more of a conscience, hasn't he, than the others. So he's not 100% on board, but he doesn't want to be seen as not one of the lads. So he's going along with it. But he's not fully into it. So that again creates quite a good dynamic, I thought. And I liked his character. I liked his performance as well. He's one of these actors who's got one of those classic faces, isn't he? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He just fits the part perfectly, I thought.
Yeah, and it's good that he comes good in the end, where he sort of dumps that straw model of Queen of the May. They sort of dump it, and he's like, go on, have that. Go on, I'm out of it. Yeah. So he comes good. He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's good.
Right, Sir George, the guy who looks like King George the whatever. Very, very old Tudor style looking guy with the big sort of curly mustache and the big wig.
He's a bit theatrical, but I do like him. He's a little bit over the top again, but I don't think he goes too far. I thought he was quite good as pantomime villain's doing a disservice actually, but I quite liked him.
Do you know what? I struggled with that, whether to, afterwards, when I was thinking about it and writing some notes down, I thought, he's him and the guy Joseph Willow, those two, I thought that they were right on the cusp of, if they had have pushed it a bit further, you know, we would have been in sort of, pantomime territory and very OTT, but they were just on the line, you know, in a few scenes. Like there's the one scene when they're out on the green and Wolsey has dumped the straw model and, you know, he's escaping on the cart and Sir George is like bellowing at him, you know, get after them. You know, at that point I thought, is he going to go? Is he going to go OTT?
You can see he's bottling it.
Yeah, but he just keeps it beyond, you know, just from going over the line. So
I'll tell you what I would have loved to have seen. I'd love to see him just nipping down the pub with Wolsey and an old, what's the character's name? Michael Robbins from from Visitation.
Oh, right,
just the three of them in the pub together. How are we today? The plague is everywhere, didn't you know? I could just imagine those guys together down the pub.
Do you know what?
This story would have been great if it had had Michael Robbins in it. What was his blooming character name? I've forgotten, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
From the Visitation.
From the Visitation, yeah. So that you're right, actually. That would have been perfect.
That would have been great
because the story sort of deals with it already because the Malice is sort of picking people out of different time zones. So you could have.
Imagine if they'd have brought him back.
Yeah. What was the character's name? I can't remember.
I'm just looking it up now.
What was the actor's name?
It's Michael Robbins.
Oh, it's Richard Mace.
Oh, Richard Mace.
Yeah, that's
Richard Mace down the pub.
The plague.
I hear the Malice. Is it down and hasn't got the plague?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
what a character.
Missed a trick there. They could have brought that wonderful character back.
Yeah. And the Doctor would have bumped into him. How have you been? Plague. To see the plague everywhere. Yes. Oh, crikey. So that, oh man.
Yeah.
Why didn't they, when was this out? 1984. Why didn't they consult my 4-year-old self?
Yeah.
You know, on, some great cameos. Oh, well.
They missed a trick there.
Yes. So it's pretty good. And then we've got Polly, the old woman that is having none of it.
Yes.
So she's like the voice of reason in all the insanity, isn't she?
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Well, along with Tegan's granddad, who we know nothing about. She's the one that just thinks the whole thing's ridiculous and has gone too far. But then she actually, because she's quite strong to begin with, she sort of stands her ground and she stands up to these, the boys who are playing sort of thing. But then, but then that sort of turns into fear, really, because she actually starts to realise that this is kind of more than a game. She starts to get a bit sort of apprehensive, and then when she escapes and then she's with the Doctor and they find the Malice, she's really scared.
But I don't. There's something about that actress, Jane Hampton. Mm-hmm. She's really good in episode 1. Like she's playing it very straight.
I know. Sorry, her character name is Jane, isn't it? We've been saying Polly the whole time.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, her character name is Jane Hampton. Yeah,
her
Polly
James.
Her actress name is Polly James.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's episode 1. She's playing it really straight down the line, and she gives a really good performance. I thought. When we get to episode 2, and she meets up with Peter Davison,
mm-hmm.
It's almost as if the two of them are having a bit of a laugh off set, and then they go, right, here we go, guys, action. Because she seems to drop the seriousness for sort of almost, like there's the bit in the TARDIS. She suddenly becomes a bit of a sort of comedy character. Like she shuts the TARDIS door, and I don't know, her character just seems to change halfway through to me, and she doesn't seem as good in episode 2 in terms of her performance. She seems to be taking it very seriously in episode 1, and episode 2 she just seems to be having a bit of a laugh, even though she's got a lot of screaming to do. And I don't know, I just got this feeling that her and the cast are just having a bit of fun that day, and that she doesn't seem in the zone somehow in part 2 is what I'm trying to get to. And I don't know why. She's still good, but her character seems to get more comedy.
Yeah, I think she gets overshadowed by the other cast members.
Possibly,
because,
possibly.
I think because in episode 1 her purpose was to
be the sensible one,
voice of reason and everything. And then when we get into episode 2, that's just all gone out the window. So once the cat's out the bag, you've just got to go with it.
Yeah, true.
So she hasn't really got much of a purpose after that because it's all going on. You can't really stop it now.
Incidentally, I do like the bit when she shuts the door because I like the Doctor's disgusted face. That,
what a great scene! Yeah, his face is like it. Do you know what it reminded me of? Actually, his face reminded me of your face. If somebody was around your house picking up one of your Doctor Who collectibles or something.
I don't think so. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, put that back.
Yeah, or if somebody picked out one of your DVDs and put it in a different spot because they thought that's where it needed to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. But it's quite a nice scene. I like how the Doctor then turns it around later on and actually says to her, "Could you shut the door?" And so that's quite nice. Yeah, but she's all right. She's quite good. Polly James.
Yeah, she's good actually.
Yeah, she's all right.
She's good. Right, let's talk about our companions, Tegan and Turlough.
What a pair, aren't they?
What a pair! I mean, Turlough had next to nothing to do, did he?
He gets to rattle some bars on a window in a shed.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even try, does he? He's like, he just sort of barely touches them. No, there's no escape from here. And he's so droll, isn't he? He does make me laugh, though. He does get a few catty lines, which made me laugh in this. Because he's so sarcastic, isn't he? Yeah. He's such a little... Yeah. But he did make me laugh in this when he did get a line. But he only gets about 5. So it's quite an easy day on set for him, really.
It was, really. I mean, he goes through the motions of what you expect a companion to have to go through in a story of Doctor Who. So he gets captured, he escapes, and there's a bit of running around and stuff like that. But there's no substance to it. It doesn't serve any importance to the story, and it's not like they couldn't have done everything without his involvement. If you know what I mean.
And you summed it up earlier. The thing that the missed opportunity with this is when he gets locked up with Tegan's grandfather.
Yes,
there would have been something for him to do there. They could have had a scene explaining a bit more about why Andrew Verney has been outcast. They could have had a scene of him escaping. They could have done a lot more. Again, probably due to time and the fact they were trying to cram it into 2 episodes. But yeah, that's where Turlough and Andrew Verney could have had a bit more substance. Yeah.
And then Tegan, she's okay actually. I think I quite like some of her scenes where she's quite feisty with Willow, Joseph Willow, like the second in command guy. Yeah. She's quite feisty with him, and she does her usual sort of brash, I'm not having any of it sort of attitude, which is quite good. She does some very strange running away at one point. The bit just before she gets her bag nicked by the weird face guy. The way she's sort of running across the courtyard. She's sort of
and then she
all
puts
over
the bag in her face as well. It's like waiting for the whole take. It's very strange.
I thought to myself, somebody has been down the pub before this scene started shooting, because she's all over the place. I mean, sometimes, when you see women running in heels, you think this is not going to end well. Yeah, because all over, it's not like that, because she hasn't really got heels. They're like little kitten heels. But the way she's running, her head's all over the place and her arms are flailing around, and you think, bloody hell, what are you running on? Is it hot coals or something?
She seems to have borrowed one of Pat Butcher's gowns for the episode as well. It's like this brightly coloured patterned thing. Oh, it's horrendous.
It is. That's the 80s, mate, for you.
That is the 80s. She's pretty standard though, isn't she? As Tegan, I think. Even when she's not that great, I just find her funny in the episode because she just moans all the time. So I always get a bit of enjoyment out of that anyway.
She's definitely one of life's whingers.
I just never get. I think the Doctor would have dumped her ages ago. I never get why she stood on the TARDIS. Like, if somebody was travelling with you moaning that much, I want to go back to London, he would have taken her ages ago. He'd be like, oh God, enough of this.
How he's not got a constant headache is beyond me, because that voice just goes through, especially when she goes into moany mode. It's like, oh Christ.
He's already managed to get rid of Adric. So
Here
he's
we
bumped
go.
one off.
No, he didn't get rid of him.
Wow, he could have gone back and saved him if he'd have wanted.
No, he couldn't do anything, could he? By the time he realised that Adric was about to crash into the planet, it was job done.
Yeah. See, if that had been the new series, the Doctor would have gone back to Gallifrey, stole a gun, stopped time, froze the explosion, got him out of there and let him escape in a CGI diner. But no, back in the 80s. people died.
People actually died. Even the companion properly died.
Which makes
not like, oh, she's dead. No, she's not. Yay.
Yeah.
She's dead again. Oh no. No, she's back. She's back, everyone. She's back.
No, in the 80s, people died and they got forgot about almost instantly.
Incidentally, that's one of the saddest endings to any Doctor Who story, classic and new combined, because there's no music at the end of Earthshock.
Right.
It's terribly sad. Even though Adric's an annoying little beep, it's terribly sad.
It is terribly sad.
Anyways, let's talk
almost slightly ruined by the fact that they cannot stop laughing when they're supposed to be crying at the end.
Oh yeah.
That bit where Tegan's like hugging the Doctor, going, "He's dead," or whatever. She said on the commentary, "I'm just laughing. I'm killing myself here." Anyway.
Anyway, talk about the fifth Doctor, Mr. Davison, in this one. Not too bad. I think that his heart wasn't in this one.
I was going to say the same, and I don't know why, because he's perfectly good in it. But you do just get the feeling he's a little bit going through the motions. He doesn't feel like he's giving it all. I almost feel like he perhaps wasn't that fussed about the script, maybe. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm glad you picked up on it as well, because that's what I thought. It just doesn't seem to be giving his all in this one.
Yeah, I thought that exactly those thoughts when I finished watching. I thought, he's good. You know, I really do like Davison as the Doctor.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, he didn't have the best stories to work with, but, you know, his performance as the Doctor, really liked it. And there is a couple of scenes, like the one at the end, like we played in the clip, where he's, you know, really sort of pleading with George to sort of, you know, fight the malice and all that stuff. He's going for it a little bit there, but the rest of the time I just felt like he thought, no, I'm not really feeling this story.
Yeah,
you know, so I'm
that's
not.
What I thought.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not intentionally, you know, because I think that as an actor he sort of did work hard, but I think that subconsciously he's just not giving it his all because he's just not feeling the story. Maybe didn't he feel like that with Black Orchid?
Yeah, he doesn't like Black Orchid as a story. He's right. On the commentary, he absolutely slays it. I think that's the one. Janet Fielding said that they actually, when they were doing a commentary for a story, they were actually stopped by the people and said, could you try and say something positive? I think that was Black Orchid, because they were just slaying it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Peter Davison said before that he felt that his stories in his second series were pretty below par. So he said, because I think didn't he say something like, if my stories had been as good as they were in my final series, I probably would have stayed on, or something like that. So I felt perhaps he just didn't quite. Yeah, he wasn't gelling with the script on this one so much. Maybe he's still good though.
Yeah,
but
I was
just
say.
not quite one of his best, I wouldn't have said.
Yeah, he has like the odd moment here and there, some couple of funny little lines, and he has that good sort of shouty speech at George at the end. But overall, just sort of 90% there.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to mention before we get on to scores, my good friend?
I'll just go back to the music very quickly, because I mentioned it right at the very start. I do think the music's really good in this, actually. It's very 80s, of course, because it's the 80s. But I think it nicely undertones the creepiness of the episode. It doesn't really, because there are some, I think when we get into the Colin Baker era, where it's just you know, the music stands out too much, like do 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 and all that. Whereas in this, it's just kind of playing along with what's on screen. I wouldn't say it's subtle, but it's not in your face either. So I thought the music was quite good. And the only other thing I would say was about the outtake, which became very famous, where the horse obliterated the church, what do you call it, the entrance, didn't it, which actually looked really good. I wouldn't have known it was fake until you see the outtake of the horse obliterating it on the extras. I mean, that became as famous as the episode back then, because I think Noel Edmonds made a thing of it on one of his very popular TV shows back then. Right. Do you remember all that? Because it was like this really famous outtake from Doctor Who, where the horse just bolts off and obliterates the entrance to the church, and it's quite famous. So I'm glad that's on the DVD extras, which do deserve a mention. Actually, I watched these after watching the 2 episodes, and the DVD extras for this are brilliant.
They are good, actually.
There's a great making of where they go back to the village and they talk to the locals, who are just characters in themselves, aren't they? There's a woman who's just chatting through her like open doorway to the crew. She's saying, "Oh, we loved it when they filmed. We loved Doctor Who when they filmed here." The extras are brilliant. They're so worth watching. And one of the best ones is the guys who made the Malice mask. Yes. They get them back together, these two guys, and they've got the original mask there, and which has been bought by a private collector, and they just get to see it, and they're like really like proud of their work, aren't they? And they're like, "Oh, I can't believe it's in such good condition. This is amazing." And then we get to meet the guy who actually bought it, who now has it hanging on his front room wall.
That's right, yeah.
That's brilliant. You get to see the Malice face on this guy's front room wall, and I bet you're thinking the same. I was thinking, I would love that.
But you'd never get away with it.
You'd never get away with it.
No.
But I was there when I don't know the guy, but I was at that auction when he bought it. Because I noticed you look to the side of it, you can see the Boems programme. I was there, and I've got a picture of the Malice face from the auction. So I would have been there when he bought it, which is nice. But yeah, I think he paid like $3,500 for it. So I would have been outbid.
It was a bit pricey, wasn't it?
It was, but I wasn't bidding that day. But that's really good. Overall, I think we've pretty much covered it. The only thing I would say is, I felt there was potential that perhaps didn't get tapped into, but otherwise it's a good story.
Yes. Right, let's move on to scores, buddy.
Yeah.
I think it's my turn to go first.
I forgot you were going to do that. I love it.
I forgot. I think it's my turn, I think.
It is your turn.
I think. Right, The Awakening. I'm going to give this a 6.5.
6.5?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wrote 6.5 yesterday.
But
as we've been talking it, I've scribbled it out and changed it to a 7.
Oh, okay.
Which now feels too high. But I'll stick with it. I'll go with 7. Probably a little bit too high for it, but I do enjoy this one. Yeah, I'm going to go with 7.
Go with your gut, mate. You feel it's a 7?
Yes, I'm going with 7 out of 10. Yeah,
Yes.
I liked it. Enjoy this one.
I gave it a 6.5 because I think it's a good little watch and stuff, but I feel like the potential, if they'd have gone on to 3, possibly 4 parts, it could have been a much grander, more fleshed out story. So I think it's a good watch. It's, recommended, if you've got an hour to kill.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it just could have been a lot more.
It could have. And also we don't get to find out, like I said, it almost, even when it ends, we still got so much story almost to wrap up, because they decide they're just going to have a little break in Little Hodcombe, don't they? They're like, oh, well, let's just stay and relax for a while, and we'll drop old Will off when we get 5 minutes. And so you almost feel like there's a little adventure there that we don't get to see, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe Big Finish could tap into that one, get Will back.
There you go.
That would be good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, let's see what you lot thought of it. I've got one audio clip in this week. This is from our good friend Louise, Loopy Lou.
Ah, Fluffy Fifth, my first Doctor. I've only seen this one once before this week. The story was okay. I like the timey-wimey thing of 1984 linked with 1643, and I can accept the psychic projections caused by the Malice, but the war games part of it wasn't really believable enough to me. Possibly the actor's fault, I don't know. I just didn't get the sense of the Malice's effect on Sir George and co. There should have been more evidence of evil influence there. It was definitely watchable though, so I give it a 6 out of 10. Now time for a cup of that evil brew tea.
That evil brew, yeah. Nice one, Lou. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lou.
6 there. Over on Twitter, our friend Lewis, Twitter name @GargantuanApple, says he didn't give us a review, but he posted a nice pic of the DVD in the tray ready to be watched.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, it's great.
Which is cool. Michael Herbert says, basically, it's an inferior remake of The Demons without Bok.
Ooh, I see where you're coming from, but I think a little bit harsh.
Mr. Herbert, yep, that's a bit of a stinging thing. It's in terms of sort of visuals, it is quite similar.
There is now I think about it, there is quite a few comparisons, isn't there? The
like
maypole, the
the big cross in the village square.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of it, but he might have got something there. But okay.
Yeah. Over on Facebook, Charlie Turner says there's not really much I can say about this one when compared to last week's episode. I like the first part, but I don't like the second part. What saves it from being called a bad story, in my opinion, is the performances. They are so good. Overall, a good story, so give it a 7 out of 10, which sounds about right for the story like this, which I think might be a bit too generous of me, but that's the best that I can give.
Yeah, he's right about the cast. They are good in this. Yeah.
Mark Atkinson, an okay sort of filler episode, really. Lots of similarities to the Demons. In my mind, Will would have made a great companion. It's a shame he didn't get to join the TARDIS crew. A decent episode, but nothing spectacular. 7 out of 10.
Cheers, Mark.
Nick Gill. Hi, Nick. It's an interesting one, though far from being my favourite Fifth Doctor story. Very sinister undertones if you delve a little deeper into some of the Civil War stuff mentioned. The fate of the May Queen is particularly unsettling.
Yeah.
Indeed. I hope I'm saying this right. Lachlan McGowan. An interesting filler story between Warriors of the Deep and Frontios. I really like the Malice. I remember when I first watched it, I thought it was very convincing. Not so much on the rewatch. The story is good, but nothing special. And performances, though, are great. So 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah. Joseph Howarth says it's a good but nothing special. Sorry, it's good but nothing special in terms of story. The Malice was quite a memorable creature in Doctor Who, and I have to say this one was quite brutal compared to other stories from Davison's era. Just the shot of Sir George being killed by beheading is something that hasn't been shown. Yep.
That was harsh, yeah.
Yep. Well, it happens off screen, but it doesn't detract from the fact that it was still a violent scene at the very end. We forgot to mention that.
Yes, and I remember. It is quite shocking actually, because I remember thinking, even though you don't, like you said, you don't see it, it's very clear what's just happened, and you do sort of see the aftermath. Yeah,
indeed. It goes on to say he does feel for Sir George. So he feels he's a lousy villain. Seriously, his motives are explained in the last part and beyond that, but he has no purpose of serving the Malice other than I must have power if I am to serve under the Malice. The war games must go on, and that's it. That's literally his whole purpose in the story, is to shout at the top of his lungs and look like a 17th century version of Captain Hook. That and his acting is wooden. Other than that, it's about the only bad thing about it. The story, however, takes its cues from the Demons, and it's very atmospheric and creepy enough to give the rating of a 7.5.
All right, good stuff.
George Coppen says, love it. It's my favourite Fifth Doctor story. Should really give it another watch soon. 8.5.
Excellent.
Callum Johnston, darker than I remembered. 8 out of 10.
Yeah, it is. It's darker than I remembered.
Yeah. Sammy Satine. Okay, so they go to visit Tegan's grandfather and end up stopping a stone alien face called the Malice from destroying everything. It's okay. Mercifully, it's short. Nice crack in the wall. Where have I seen that idea before?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Series 5. Is this where the Moff got the idea from? A big old question mark there, Sammy. We're all asking. Tegan wasn't as annoying in this, but I was distracted watching it. And to be honest, I think it's because the story didn't grip me. An unfortunate thing with Fifth Doctor stories, I like Davison. I think he seems like a lovely man, and I really enjoyed his recent interview in the Doctor Who magazine. However, as good as he is, I always find his Doctor a wet dishcloth. I used to rate him higher, but since watching more of his stories, his Doctor has gone down in my opinion. Sorry, Peter. And she gives it a 5 out of 10.
Oh, okay. Cheers, Sammy.
There we go. Jeff Waddle says, very middle of the road. The Malice is a good idea, but never really explained. Strangely, for 2 episodes, there's barely enough story here to fill it. Could and should have been quite Hammer horror-ish with burnings and possessions, but kind of just fizzles out with little threat. 5 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
And
cheers,
lastly, Lewis Palmer says, I used to enjoy this one, and on a rewatch, my opinion hasn't really changed. It's a decent, entertaining 50 minutes of Who, but it doesn't leave much impact when it's over. I like the character of Will, but I am glad he didn't come back as a companion, as they intended originally. I feel that Sir George is more annoying than anything else, and he wasn't the best villain. Speaking of annoying, Jane got on my nerves fast. She was fine at the beginning, but as the story progressed, she got worse. Malice was a great idea, I had to laugh when he looks like he's being sick at the end. The story does feel like a lesser version of the demons, however. And the whole thing of Tegan and Turlough escaping and then getting caught and then escaping again got quite repetitive. Overall, a decent, enjoyable story, but it certainly won't go down as one of the best. A 7 out of 10. He says, a side note, why are the end credits purple in this story? Not sure what that's about.
Oh, are they? I don't know. See, I'm colourblind. I didn't notice. Are they different?
They are, but I hadn't thought about it in any more detail. Yeah, why are they? I'm not sure.
No.
If anyone knows, let us know.
Did you have Malice influence.
Yeah, do you have anything on the Geeks Handbag?
Yeah, I had a couple. Yeah, I had Patrick Sherwood has literally just come in with this comment 1 hour ago. He says, I love this story. It's okay, but not one of the best Fifth Doctor stories ever. He gives it a 6 out of 10. Andy Escott Carrington says, what a great name, says, this story has a special place in my memories from growing up. Locations are close to where I live, so I have visited a few times. Oh, I would like to visit them. And even a run through half marathon through Shapwick. Love the design of the Malice. The very English May Day celebrations are overall a fun and very English episode. What could be more classic Who? Gets a 9 out of 10 from Andy. I would. He lives close to the location. I'm a little bit jealous. I'd love to go there. Matt Vernon says, I really like this one. The large cast is managed well. Everyone is on good form. And it has a joy to it for what is a dark story, really. Yes, very true. And finally, Mark Daniel Mooney says, a solid, good two-parter. Really solid. I meant to ask you, did you watch the extra with Chameleon? That's the outtake that they filmed but cut.
That cut, yes, I did, yeah.
Because it's got Peter Davison and Mark Strickson provided the voice for him in the studio. It's really funny. Yeah. You can see why they cut it, can't you? It's terrible.
Yeah. Well, do you know what?
Comedians can't stand up. They sort of lent him against the wall.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's probably one of the reasons why he was cut. It was more of a production thing, because they don't explain why he's not there in a few stories.
No, that's
he just disappears, doesn't he, for a while?
Yeah, he's just tinkering around in the TARDIS.
Yeah, that's it. It's weird. Yeah.
Weird thing.
So thank you very much, guys, for sending in your thoughts and stuff on The Awakening. Yeah, just to summarise, it's not one of Davison's best, but it's a good enough watch, I would say. It's a reasonable watch if you've got an hour to spare.
It's an interesting oddity, isn't it?
Yeah. Next week, we are going back to the future, or back to the recently just gone.
Great Scott!
Great Scott Marty! And we're going to be looking at a 12th Doctor story. So, buddy, what are we going to review next week?
Oh, goodness me. Next week, we are going to be reviewing Kill the Moon, which we didn't review back then. So, yes, it'll be the first time we've reviewed this together. Kill the Moon. Yeah.
Capaldi.
The moon is an egg.
The moon is an egg, of course.
Good Lord.
Yes.
What are we going to make of that?
So get your Blu-rays and DVDs out on that one. Yeah. Get that watched so you can send us your thoughts and reviews on that. Yes. And I think we're going to do there for 112.
Okay.
Thank you, as always, for sticking with us and listening through. It's quite a long show, this one. I think we had quite a bit of news and merch to go through. So if you're still here, howdy do. Thank you very much for getting through this long. It's been great talking through what's coming up for Class and Doctor Who. Even though our opinions are slightly different and all the rest of it, that's still good, because at least we're engaged. And it's not just a case of meh. We'll catch it later.
Yeah. So, see you later.
Yeah, so it's good that we've got some info and some trailers and whatnot coming up, so that's all good. Give us your thoughts on this Eagle Moss Mega Dalek situation, whether you think it's worth the cash, worth the bunts or not. If you've got one, let us know. If you've got one of these bronze Dalek mega statues from Eagle Moss, let us know what the quality is like and so on. And also, thank you very much again for your thoughts and reviews on The Awakening. Sorry, Mr. Davison.
What's that?
I don't know. Sorry, Mr. Davison, it's all good. Next week, Kill the Moon. it's going to be an interesting review. I can feel it. I can feel it already that it's going to be, an up and down review. I can feel it.
I think it might, yeah.
Yes. Head over to our website, www.bigblueboxpodcast.com. You can listen to all of our previous episodes, and you can link off to all of our social stuff and follow us and like on there, because we often converse and talk rubbish in between podcasts and all that stuff. And you can also link off to iTunes and subscribe there. And if you are an iTunes listener, if you could give us a review and a rating, that would be fab, because it helps us out lots. Remember to check out Adam's channel, The Geek's Handbag. Do a search for The Geek's Handbag on YouTube and Facebook. Give Adam's channel a like and a follow and all that jazz. Subscribe. Got some great videos there. Some great stuffs.
Sure.
You
won't like the new one.
Is it Star Trek?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 99% Doctor Who, but the next one is Star Trek.
Okay.
I said it quite.
For Who fans and Trekkies alike, go and check it out. Right. Until next week, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember...